on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us on what promises to be another magnificent Monday, especially good friends from Cayman Enterprise today. Not only the CEO, Mr. Charles Kirkconnell, but perhaps one of the renowned economists in the region, Mr. Marla Tukaran, joins us. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining us, and thanks again to Mr. Charles Kirkconnell, his leadership, I must say his commitment, and almost, Charlie, seemingly endless energy to continue to press in. So to you and the good team over at Cayman Enterprise today, I wish you continued success, man.
well, thank you. And it takes a lot of energy.
Well, they say they're trailblazers, the pioneers, you know. They go to the frontier lands and they set it up, and then centuries later people see how easy it is. But maybe your vision, your passion and enthusiasm is not unlike the seafarers of yesteryear who saw the importance of service and sacrifice, that untiring commitment to our community. So we'll see where it takes us, man.
Yeah.
And I must share, having an economy like ours that primarily we were talking about banking and tourism, now we've kind of expanded. Perhaps hopefully not so much as semantics. We know instead of saying banking, we say financial services, and instead of tourism is hospitality, but still two legs, and a three-strand cord is probably stronger than two. A three-legged stool is definitely more stable. So bringing another leg to our economy should help us indeed.
Well, yeah, and that's as we've talked about many times. That's one of the very significant missions of the project is to provide some economic diversity, attract some foreign direct investment from new sectors, and increasingly knowledge transfer.
And that's the thing, especially in a service-based economy. I mean, if we look at only the three legs, sort of, or tiers of the economy as we go through the transition from the agrarian to the industrial to what long ago was termed the information age, but that knowledge that we get in a service-based economy bodes well. I know over the last couple of administrations, we've heard much through her publication and even her work with her government. Ms. Mahala's not only intellect, but insightful, objective approach. I guess that's what economists do, right? Your, if I may ask, CSC's sort of attachment, commitment, and workings with her. How did that come about, and share with us?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll start kind of engaging Marla. In 2013, we realized that there was not sufficient transparency in connection with the CEC socioeconomic development project. We felt that and I'm sure many people will agree that the government and the general public, have a right to know whether the concessions offered to businesses through the CEC project are delivering an appropriate return on investment. So we're very sensitive to that, and as a result of us discovering this, we produced our first report that year, and we've been doing it ever since on an annual basis. We've improved the report through the years by just making it more robust. We always had it reviewed. Like we put together the data and we pass it on to a local accounting firm to ensure that that they do a proper review so that we're not fudging numbers and making things up. It was important to us that it be independently done, where we provide the data, but the review and the analysis is independently done. And then 3 years ago, we decided that we really needed to add to take it to another level, and so we engaged Marla and her team, and at that time, just a higher level of analysis, but most importantly, Marla and her team were able to add the socio part to what was previously, simply an economic impact report. So that's where just a higher level of quality in the report, and some more in-depth analysis of what is the social impact of the CEC project.
I commend you for not only seeking value for money, but the transparency and accountability. And there have been, without question, many concessions granted over the decades. Still some to this day where they may be outstanding fees. You've at least tried to say, this is what we've got, this is what we're doing with it, this is the impact, and the public can objectively assess it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we present our report to the government every year. We also post the report on our website, so anybody who wants to take a look at it can. And if anybody does take a look at it, anyone who does take a look at it has any questions or comments or anything at all in connection with the report, we'd love to speak with them about it.
All right. Well, through you, let's join Ms. Marla, who's connected on using one of our technologies. A pleasant good afternoon to you. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Sterling. Are you hearing me well?
I am, and I'm hoping that you are able to hear us well. And again, apologies for sometimes what seems to be technical glitches in this field of technology that we have these days.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's no problem at all. I'm just grateful to be able to connect and to share in this discussion with you and Charlie, and to share our findings with the Caymanian people. So thanks for having me.
You're most welcome, and I'm sorry the other day at that conference hosted by the Minister for Climate Resiliency, I listened to some of your comments and didn't get a chance to speak directly, but always very impressed, not just with your intellect, but the humility, objectivity, and the consciousness in which you present your information.
Thank you, Sterling. And it's a joy to be on your program again. And as Charlie had mentioned, we're supporting Cayman Enterprise City as much as we can to help raise awareness of the work that they do and how important it is, not just to the economic diversification effort, but also, as Charlie mentioned, the level of transparency, accountability, all of that is so much more important these days than it ever was before. And CEC, sets a real high bar in terms of their standard of transparency and accountability. And so this is consistent with, what I stand for and what I believe in, and that's why I'm always very happy to help.
The partnership does definitely seem to be not just symbiotic, but one that, together from the country's perspective, we may want to use as a benchmark. I share with you and commending him for insisting in a sense that the public is consciously aware of what the CEC is doing, especially relative to the concessions that have been presented. Hopefully that'll be the new bar, and then others will likewise take on board.
Indeed, but I mean, as it relates to concessions, just to be clear, CEC doesn't receive funding from the government. Or any subsidies, right? And they pay full duties on their imports. So it's not exactly the same kind of relationship as an entity that receives a direct subsidy, but it's still important to show the contribution to the government and the wider economy, in my view. And we found that in 2022, for example, CEC generated government revenues of about $5.3 million US, which is not insignificant. And on a net basis, 4.8 million, and what we're netting out of the 5.3 is just really what it costs the government to issue all of the licenses and so on that go into the companies that operate in the zone.
And this is, the interesting part, that despite it not being sort of the recipient of public funds, the fact that it's willing, CEC is to share, what it's doing, how it's doing it. Maybe it'll cause others to consider the importance of giving to the country an account for what they receive. But in your analysis, if I may ask, here is something that is relatively new to this part of the region and in the special economic zones that we see in the Middle East, for instance. CEC's impact to the local economy seems to be significant, despite in dollars numbers, relatively small sums.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for the 11 years or so that Cayman Enterprise City has been around, their contribution, you can look at the contribution just to government as I highlighted earlier, but you have overall economic contribution that's much larger than that. Let me pull up my note on that exactly, because it's 11 years, if memory serves me correct. And we saw, one of the interesting things we found was that you had growth in the zone, special economic zone and Cayman Enterprise Cities activities, such that you had 25% more companies post-COVID in 2022 than you did before COVID. So it shows that there's a level of resilience that you haven't seen, for example, in the tourism sector. But let me just go back to my note with respect to what we were just talking about. In the 11 years since inception, the overall economic impact has been over $806 million US in 11 years, which is quite a significant amount. But in my view, it's, as Charlie mentioned, there's the economic impact, but then there's also the social impact. And there are some impacts that you just can't quantify. So we did our best to quantify the contribution to the government, the contribution to the wider economy based on the multiplier effect of things like construction and real estate impacts and so on. But then you also had the impact as it relates to jobs. And for me, that was the most telling, most important impact that I am seeing. So, for example, we're seeing that the estimated earnings of Caymanians working at the special economic zone companies is higher than the average earnings of Caymanians overall in the total economy. 52%, this is according to data that we got from the ESO, 52% of Caymanians earned less than 4,000 Cayman dollars per month. This was data taken from fall of last year, whereas the average monthly salary for Caymanians at the special economic zone was estimated at 7,232 Cayman dollars. So about 3,200 Cayman dollars more
almost
than
twice
the
as much,
average of the total economy. Yeah, and this is for Caymanians specifically. I'm not speaking of expatriate labor. And then the other thing we found, which again, we quantify as much as we can, but there's unquantifiable implications. So Caymanian women employed in the special economic zone companies earn higher salaries than women do in the broader Cayman economy on average. And that's important. Why? Because women reinvest more of their earnings into their families and their communities than do men, 54% of women in Cayman earned less than 3,200 Cayman dollars in fall of last year, whereas the average monthly salary for Caymanian women at the Special Economic Zone companies was estimated at about 5,000, just under 5,500. So you have a difference of a couple thousand, over a couple thousand Cayman dollars there. That's really, to me, sorry, you go ahead.
No, which is significant, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I love listening to you because as I listen to the numbers, I'm getting to see a perspective that maybe we don't always appreciate when it comes to dollars and cents.
No, and I think that, a lot of people don't really understand what Cayman Enterprise City does. Yes, we understand that you can open a company and get it registered and get up and running through their inward investment promotion work, but I think most people don't understand the broader social implications of that kind of diversification, of diversifying into more knowledge-based industries than the traditional industries we have in Cayman or traditional historically anywhere in the Caribbean. And that's what's allowing these kinds of higher salaries to be paid, because the productivity is that much higher and the value add is that much higher. And these kinds of implications are the things that we don't really think about. Most people don't understand. But when 20 years from now, when technology eliminates bookkeepers and secretaries and typists and other less value add jobs, and all of a sudden we realize, wait a second, we have all of these high value knowledge based jobs in Cayman. How did this happen? Maybe that's when wait a second, this was happening all along. We just didn't really notice. But it is I think it's going to snowball at some point. I don't know if Charlie, I know you agree and you have the same hopes and dreams. But it is gaining momentum. As I said, 25% more companies now than there were before COVID, which shows you the level of resilience as well in the Special Economic Zone.
Charlie, perhaps we take this break. When we come back, we can get your perspective, but also talk more. Ms. Marla brings a wealth of knowledge, and just listening to her, I feel much more educated and inspired. So join us after the break. We'll get another perspective.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline. Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
How can you make a classic BLT sandwich even better? Well, by adding tuna. The land meets the sea in Subway's new sandwich, the Tuna BLT, available for a limited time. The Tuna BLT is exploding with flavor. Imagine crispy, juicy bacon strips on top of tuna, fresh lettuce, and slices of tomato, topped with your favorite sauce and choice of freshly baked bread. Enjoy the best of both worlds with the Tuna BLT from Subway. Subway, eat fresh.
Yo, big up Massive. Summer is here and Digicel got the vibes flowing straight to Jamaica. That's right, me people. Digicel has a sizzling offer for you. Top up for your loved ones in a Jamaica and you get a chance to win the ultimate trip to the land of sun, sea and good vibes. To enter for the free trip to Jamaica, just send top up to your loved ones back home with Digicel and you automatically qualify. Remember, the more top up you send, the higher the chance you win. So make sure you don't miss out on the fun. Me people, get the summer vibes flowing with a top up for your loved ones with Digicel and get ready for a trip of a lifetime.
Are you tired of waiting in long lines at the pharmacy just to fill a prescription?
If what, child, let me tell you.
Well, now you can save time and money with ValueMed's online prescription service. Visit ValueMed's new website, valrx.com, and click the Refill Subscriptions button. Fill in your information and choose your preferred pickup location. Or email your prescription refills for ValueMed Walkers Road at rx-wr@valrx.com, and for ValueMed in Boddentown, email rx-bt at valrx.com. Say goodbye to the hassle of waiting in lines and hello to the convenience of online prescriptions with ValueMed Pharmacy. Visit valrx.com to place your orders today.
They say variety is the spice of life, and that's why at Subway we're introducing the new boneless hot sub. Say what? The premium sub brings new ingredients like spicy breaded boneless chicken, French's crispy fried onions, and buffalo wing sauce, bringing a zesty and flavorful experience with every bite. Add some of your favorite veggies, cheese, and ranch sauce of your choice of freshly baked bread for the ultimate boneless hot sub. For a little spice in your life, try the new boneless hot sub from Subway.
So good and tasty.
And make it a meal with a drink and chips or cookies. Subway. Eat fresh.
CUC Advisory. Customers are advised of a scheduled outage on Wednesday, July 19th between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. for Hope Drive, Strawberry Drive, Optic Way, and Wicker Lane off Smith Road in Georgetown. For more information, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks again to the CEO over at Cayman Enterprise City, Mr. Charlie Kirkconnell, for sharing with us. But if he doesn't mind, if I can say it through him, especially for this opportunity to speak to Ms. Marla Ducuran. Ms. Marla, as an economist, maybe that itself isn't sufficient to describe not only your great acumen, but the respect and increasingly the region where the Cayman Islands has had. I think the last government, through the leadership of the Honorable Premier Sir Alden, he recognized your stature, your abilities, and how much credibility and competence you can bring to giving governments necessary information. So hopefully that will inspire the region to look to its own, to see the talent that we have, and sometimes not be so dismissive.
Well, I think many of my colleagues get quite a bit of recognition around the region. So I don't know. Maybe it's just in Cayman my voice is loudest.
Well, we've always been known to be smart enough to at least find good people and benefit from their expertise and experience. And I think what you share with us makes me reflect on something that you said just prior to the break. Perhaps in the Cayman context, within the in our own confines of our community, we're not sufficiently yet aware or willing to embrace what CEC is offering, not just now, but 2 and 3 decades down the road. But to what extent do you think, A, we can change that perspective, and B, given that it would appear that the international community, not just only the 25% sort of increase in companies post-COVID, but the international community's recognition of its importance for them and the value that it can add to their initiatives. First, what can we do for our own people to appreciate what we have, and to what extent, do you think the wider international community sees the great value that CEC is offering?
Well, I think it's and Charlie would be able to add more to this because he's, Caymanian, he's on the ground, and connected better to the community than I am, for sure. But it's clear that externally the attention is there, because that 25% growth is phenomenal, especially post-pandemic. And we're also seeing 25% growth in the companies there versus 9% growth in total active companies in general in Cayman. So it's growing faster than the average economy in terms of the number of companies on the general registry. So there's something special that they're doing there that internationally is being recognized in terms of domestic recognition. I think, first of all, as small islanders, we tend to be more outward-looking than inward-looking, culturally. And I don't mean just Cayman, I mean in general. We tend to look at what's happening outside more so than we look at what's happening within. So this is not just specific to Cayman. I think also, we especially the last, I guess, 3 years or so that I have been working with Charlie and Cayman Enterprise City on these economic impact assessments. We've been trying to raise awareness by doing shows like this, by putting the report out publicly and through our channels on social media and so on. But I think that it's, there's always more we can do to raise awareness. And I think that it's, for me, more important because it's not just about what is Cayman Enterprise City achieving. It's about what does a small island developing state like the Cayman Islands need to do to ensure its longer-term socioeconomic progress. The thing is, you have a small physical space, you have limited natural resources, already you import so much labor. What is it that you need to do so that you can continue to see progress, but one, sustainable progress, so not at the expense of your natural resources, but also progress that is not limited by these natural resources. So I'll give you an example. And I want to just deviate a little bit from Cayman just so that you can see what I'm saying as it relates to other countries. I was in Bahamas a couple of months ago in their resort property called Albany. It's sort of very upscale, more, long-term tourist, as well as people who have vacation homes in Bahamas have their residences there. And it just so happened that DJ Khaled was there at the time that I was there.
Okay.
And
just
I
happened,
thought,
no?
really, why is... I thought, why is he there? And what was explained to me is that there is this absolutely state-of-the-art recording studio there. And lots of recording artists come and record their music in that studio so that the IP, the intellectual property, is registered in the Bahamas. And therefore, you have certain tax benefits for it to be registered in the Bahamas, right? If between the tax double taxation treaties and so on between the US and Bahamas, for example, as it relates to that type of IP. So the thing is, there is almost no limit to how much intellectual property you can register in the Bahamas. Likewise, for Cayman Enterprise City and what it does in terms of bringing that knowledge-based intellectual property type activity to the Cayman Islands, where it doesn't matter how small you are. There is no limit to how much intellectual property can be registered in your country, and you're limited only by the amount of people who want to come on and register there based on how easy it is and how conducive it is to doing business in your country. And when I look around, across the Caribbean, the one thing that holds us back, in my view, that is so obvious to me, there are many things that hold us back, but the sort of catch-all phrase, if you will, is ease of doing business. And that's something that Cayman has. And I think Cayman Enterprise City, more so, is because of its business facilitation, is bringing that kind of future-based, knowledge-based activity to Cayman Islands in a way that nobody else is doing in the region. I kid you not, nobody else is doing this, and not to that scale, and not to the extent where it's growing faster than the rest of the economy either. So, I congratulate Charlie and the team for the excellent work that they're doing in this regard. And it's something that I think people really need to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And we're going to work really hard this year to make sure that they do.
Well, I appreciate your perspective that, Charlie in particular and the team on the ground here would be perhaps better positioned, but with great respect to our listeners and our wider community. Sometimes we just need to hear an external voice telling us what we're perhaps unwilling to accept, acknowledge, or even somehow just seek to see if indeed what it is that we're finding. You mentioned earlier about the earnings relative to the wider sector as published by the ESO. Were there anything else that may have stuck out, even surprised you in your analysis?
The fact that you have 25% more companies than before COVID, which I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to see that pace of growth, because we know that with COVID there was so much reduction in not just the size of economies, but the amount of private sector activity taking place. So many companies closed down all over the world. And so this is certainly, bucking the trend that we saw post-COVID, or during COVID. So that surprised me. But as I mentioned, the other thing that surprised me was the fact that you had so much more of a level of earning for Caymanian people, and more so for Caymanian women in Cayman Enterprise City Special Economic Zone companies. That also it really stood out for me, because as I said, when I think about why do any of us do anything that we do? Why do you get up in the morning and get dressed and go to work and do what you do? If not to make this place a better place, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe that women, the data shows that women invest more in their families and communities than do men. Therefore, the more you empower women, the better all of us will be. The better all of our lives are, the better standard of living we all have. And so it's that much more important that women are paid equally and paid better, and that, we empower women so that they can empower their families, and that has benefits for all of us. So that was the other outlier for me, and something that really touched me. And the fact that you have the pace of employment growth for Caymanians is outpacing the wider economy. So you had, for example, the special economic zone companies created 2.2 times as many jobs for Caymanians and permanent residents as they did for expats in the last 2 years. So they're creating many more jobs for Caymanians than they are for expats. That's not the case in the other sectors across the Cayman economy. And the number of citizens working there has grown by average of 30% annually in the last 2 years. and that's not something we can say of the rest of the economy on average. So this is something, and that's why I think it's important for Caymanian people to see this and to recognize this, and to see that this is probably something they can think about in their career future as well.
And as I listen to you, I mean, those are the sort of socio-economic impact that sometimes we don't always appreciate, because when we're trying to quantify numbers, we're just looking at the accounting aspect of it. That statistic may be something that as a country we need to look more closely. We live in this 21st century, yet women globally earn less, have similar less opportunities for career advancement. But not only in Cayman, but specifically, as you reference, CEC now is demonstrating its investment, its commitment to the people and to its women in particular. So how do we then get the community to appreciate that impact? If women are investing more heavily in their families and directly into their communities, if that empowerment that women have, they may serve as stronger role models for their own children and their contemporaries. That could bode well for an enhanced quality of life for all citizens.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, if your question is how do we get people to see this and appreciate this, again, it's about us bringing this message to the people. And I appreciate that you're playing your role in that regard and having us on your show today. I know that Charlie and the team, they do an amazing job as well in putting as much out in terms of their communication strategy publicly. And I think that more and more people are aware. I think that we can always do better and make more people aware than we had in the past. I think it would be also helpful, because I know that this government, for example, is very much focused on diversity, inclusion, sustainability, and I think that if the government were to see the impact that Cayman Enterprise City is having on its economy, but also socially, and can encourage, from a policy making standpoint, encourage other companies to adopt the kinds of approaches, for example, around transparency and accountability, but also around inclusion and diversity in the wider private sector, and like you said earlier, regard Cayman Enterprise City as a benchmark, and as a policymaker, this is the kind of behavior you want in the private sector, that you shouldn't have to regulate, that you shouldn't have to encourage by laws or regulations or concessions, but this is the kind of behavior you would like to see in the private sector see more of. And I think that if the government were to recognize that and make an effort to perhaps encourage other companies to behave similarly and support the work that Cayman Enterprise City does, it would go a long way as well.
Charlie, I mean...
one thing I'd like to kind of pick up on that Marla was saying and you were asking about is we feel that it's really important not to basically be doing clickbait style, kind of self-aggrandizement where we're saying we're doing all of these great things, but people pretty quickly figure out if you are or you're not, especially in a small community where we say that we're doing all these things, but in fact, things are very easy to say, but sometimes very, very difficult to do. We feel that getting the word out is important, but even more important than that is that the underlying facts are real. And what we're doing is it's not smoke and mirrors. We're willing to pull back the curtains and have that people take a look. And see, exactly what it is, CEC and the Enterprise Cayman not-for-profit initiative are doing. And we're open to comments, suggestions, constructive criticism even, as if it's constructive. We'll take criticism however it comes, but we prefer constructive. we do want people to know, what the project is all about, what it's accomplishing, and how it's good for the country. We definitely don't want to be, pulling the wool over anyone's eyes and pretending that we're doing something that we're not. So welcome anybody who has any, like I said, any questions, any feedback, any criticism, any comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Indeed. Ms. Marla, I was looking forward to having you join us maybe sometime on one visit. We may have you, physically in the studio. But any sort of closing thoughts you may want to have for our listeners?
Sterling, I would be happy to have to take you up on that opportunity to come in person. Next time I'm there, I'll let you know. In terms of my closing thoughts, like Charlie just hinted at and suggested, I think he's absolutely right. Just look at the report and you would see the data and the analytics yourself. I mean, of course, here on a radio show, I'm not going to bore you with all of the the numbers, but it's there. It's in black and white. And we did a whole heap of analysis. We also looked at, for example, how does what Cayman Enterprise City how does it support the strategic policy statement of the government and the goals within the strategic policy statement. So in other words, how is the activity of the CEC and the companies in the special economic zone supporting the Cayman Islands development strategy? And I think it's really interesting to see the ways in which it's supporting and to see those connections being made. I would encourage everyone to have a look at the report as soon as it's out.
Well, thank you very much. And if it's okay with you, I'll ask Charlie to share my contact details with you so that we can coordinate.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. It's a pleasure. Enjoy your week.
Thank you, Marla.
Thank you.
Charlie, it's encouraging. I mean, eagerly anticipate you and your team as you come on the program on a regular basis. And it's just primarily one objective, to get our people to appreciate that we have something that many places wish they had. It's driven by strongly, if I may say, young Caymanian leaderships. And with it means well.
Out of that awareness, we want people to tap into it. So the most important part of awareness from our perspective is that people take advantage of the opportunities that are being presented. Something that you raised at least a few times on the show previously was young people being advised by their parents. Appreciate that that's what you'd like to do as a career, but there's not a future in that, not in Cayman, and kind of bringing across to not just young people but also their parents that there are tremendous opportunities existing today and more coming in the future that didn't exist in Cayman in the past. And if they have if the parents have a child that's technology, I guess they that's where their skills lie or their interest lies. What we want people to be, why we want people to be aware, so that they're not kind of steered away from a career in technology because it just doesn't make sense in the Cayman Islands kind of thing, which was a situation 20 years ago, not that long ago. So we want people to be aware of what the project is all about and the opportunities that are being created so that they can tap into them.
It is, and I mean, this is legitimate. I mean, Marla even used the technical term, a whole heap of analysis. No, but to be able to look at your reports and to see the objectivity, to be able to assess them and compare them, is something that I'm hopeful many of us will start to appreciate, not just the policymakers and the politicians, but the wider public. Charlie, next time you come on, maybe we'll stay more and ask more questions. But thanks very much, all right?
Yeah, thanks for having us on again.
All right. Well, it's a Monday. What that means? Well, I mean that you had a Sunday and there's a promise of a Tuesday. Join us after the break and we'll tell you what. Stay tuned.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's wisdom news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority.
57 participating artists of the third Cayman Islands Biennial are recognized at a special awards ceremony hosted at the National Gallery. In a social media post, the gallery extended sincere thanks to all contributing artists and other congratulations to this year's awardees. That included Bendel Hyde's award recipient, Caitlin Elphingston, and emerging artist recipient, Alyssa Janae Gilbert. Congratulations were also extended to artists receiving special commendations, Babity Barwick, Rochelle Miller, Carrie Ann Chisholm, and Latoya Francis. In international headlines, Kevin Spacey's lawyers enlisted the help of an A-list star today in his sexual assault trial, calling Elton John and his husband to cast doubt on one of the Oscar winner's accusers at the end of the defense case. Elton John appeared briefly in the London court by video link from Monaco after his husband, David Furnish, testified that Spacey did not attend the annual party at their Windsor home at the time that the accuser said he was attacked in a car. In Guyana, opposition leader Aubrey Norton says he will not support the move by the Guyana government to employ Cuban nurses as a short-term strategy to deal with the shortage of healthcare workers in the country. Addressing a public meeting of the opposition A Partnership for National Unity, APNU, Sunday night, Norton told supporters that the government should instead increase salaries of nurses so as to ensure they do not seek employment overseas. Those are your headlines. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
The headline news are brought to you by Health Services Authority.
the Health Services Authority has over 120 world-class physicians, offering the most comprehensive range of specialist services on island. Our dedicated team of professionals provide the highest quality care in orthopedics, interventional radiology, women's health, geriatrics, and a host of other specialist areas. We are a JCI accredited organization with a proven record of excellence. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you. For more information, visit hsa.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Linton Nathaniel Tibbetts, 1923 to 2011. Linton Tibbetts was known throughout the Cayman Islands not only as a successful businessman, but as one who showed great interest in his homeland and invested time, money, and influence to help the welfare of his beloved sister islands. In the late 1960s, he organized the first annual Cayman Picnic, still held each July in the Tampa-St. Petersburg area, to bring together the many Caymanians living in the United States and encourage them to remember their roots. In 1972, Mr. Linton and several other successful Brackers started an air service between Florida and Cayman Brac to bolster the Sister Islands' embryonic tourism industry. The air service was later expanded to serve all three islands with a fleet of 7 planes. He built hotels and museums on both sister islands and was involved in establishing Cayman Brac Power and Light Company. Although his career was primarily devoted to operating his chain of building supply stores in Florida, he always visited the islands frequently and maintained close ties with his family and friends in Cayman. Mr. Linton and his wife Pauline, Miss Polly nee Ebanks, had 4 children.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is indeed another promising day as this Monday unfolds. We're in the 7th month, according to our calendar, and hopefully each day brings a renewed sense of enthusiasm, but a bit of question. There are many challenges, not just for the politically elected or the politically appointed, but even for those who may see themselves in entrepreneurial spirit. But just that individual who is in the early throes of retirement, who contemplating what the future may hold as they advance their careers, as they look at continued education, as they are purposeful in their plans for tomorrow. But they also appreciate that each day brings its own challenges and trials and tribulations. It has as much opportunity for prosperity as it has for pain. It's just a matter of how you position yourself and how resilient, how much resolve you may have. But even in those times when you feel that it's just a challenge to put one foot in front of the other, to even, as Ms. Marla shared earlier, even just move yourself out of that sleeping position and become upright and ambulatory as you move through your daily routine to get your energy flowing so you can face the day. You do it with a purpose, with the prospect that you're trying to make the place that much better. And that should be the commitment. There are some who are actually struggling for many reasons, from death or disease, from the clinical definition of depression, to that sort of foreboding blues and weariness, for that sense of that ominous feeling that weighs heavily on their soul and their spirit and physically manifests itself in ways. And that's why it's important for us to draw alongside. As we chastise and correct, we should commend and compliment, as we appreciate that there are those who may mean well, they're just misguided. They may not even appreciate their missteps simply because those around them are inclined to be deceptive simply because it benefits them, that particular path is continued. Are we willing? Do we have the sufficient confidence, the sufficient presence and ethics and ethos and integrity and honesty and humility to share, so that the people at the end of the day can't say, well, you told me so. No, they can say that they had support. I was listening yesterday, as I often get a chance to, if I'm in a car, I truly enjoy what Radio Cayman programming. Even sometimes the songs, they may be a little bit too modern and contemporary, that I'm not quite sure the singing and the lyrics from the religious programming. At times, I don't always get the benefit of the scripture as it's presented in, but sometimes it just resonates within you. And as I listen, between 3:30 yesterday, going into a space that presented itself by itself as a challenge, to be reminded at times that we look at things and it's not so much that we, in accepting someone's apology and forgiving them of their transgressions, because what they say, you're the one that is burdened by this heavy weight when you carry a grudge. But maybe sometimes when that person steps up and says, I apologize, I'm sorry I did this, as much that they may have been wrong for what they did, and they acknowledged it, as much as you may not have been in this together, may not necessarily have done anything wrong to cause that. Perhaps just saying, what, maybe I can apologize too, because perhaps unknowing something that you said or did or didn't say or do could have been that trigger that caused that person to respond. It's not always the case. We always want to be right. We always want to feel vindicated. We always want to feel that what we have done when someone has aggrieved us, is that they are sufficiently, remorseful, which is good. But do we ever look back and wonder, did we do anything that may have led to that? It's not about giving in. It's not about being weak. It's not about being submissive. From my perspective, it's about, being human. and kind and gracious, not just with a sense of humility, but with a sense of consciousness to appreciate. And as I reflected on, I was thinking that from the perspective that I know, being born, raised, and lived here, but for travel and study, and then in periods of time absent, that was intended to be constructive, this has been my home and would endeavor for it to always be. As happy as I would be to live in any part of this country, in any of the 3 islands, we all have our preferences for the spaces that we would like to be. For some, we can't get any closer to the water. I think of my good friends in the east every day, whether from sun up to sundown, they can taste, smell, and hear, the saltiness of the air simply because of where they live. 2 steps out the back door and they're at the water's edge. That must be a beautiful thing to be able to enjoy that. But we, like many, take it for granted. And in sharing that, I wonder where we are in a purposeful, very deliberate consciousness to make this place that very, wonderful place that it can be, should be, and perhaps has been, but could it be better? Well, take us to task. 949-8037, 949-6990. 1-800-534-8255 is our Flow toll-free line. It's a compliment of them, and that makes that call toll-free. Of course, it's WhatsApp, 925-3261. It's a Monday. I don't know about you, but as the summers come, many of us look anxiously to an exit somewhere, either from our daily work, so that we can have a much more relaxed mindset. Sometimes physically, from the beauty that's around us, so that we can travel other places to enjoy, to unwind, to get away. And perhaps that is absolutely necessary. But in that, are we also looking at how we can continue to contribute, not just to others and their well-being, but to our own? If each, of us will do our utmost to give, as much as we can in a very, very willing, untiring way, would it not be a better place? I had the opportunity to speak just the other day with some young people as I was listening to what they were sharing, and halfway during the discussion, I may revisit some with you. I just asked, you've invited me before, and why then, and why do you ask again? And as much as it didn't shock me, I was glad for it. It was the reminder that I speak to them with respect, despite as they reminded me, the vast age difference. I didn't think that was that many decades between our years, but they kept me honest. They said I am honest with them, not just respectful to them, not just candid, not just honest, but very respectful. And to see some of them, when they were just inside their teen years, to be able to feel appreciated and valued, to feel validated, to feel that they do matter, that their voices and opinions are important, that the actions of today not only affect them tomorrow, but today. Not only their actions, but something that many of us as adults, as their parents, as their coaches, and even their teachers fail to appreciate. What we do impacts them sometimes, not just in the most serious of ways, but forever. And to watch them, 10 plus years, 15 plus years later, as they're continuing some of their, postgraduate studies, or they've advanced further in their careers, and not yet knocking on the door of 30, but to see these young people and their energy and their willingness. And sometimes we have to question to what extent their desire to serve is perhaps looked at by some to be naive as opposed to the noble endeavor. Well, I'll share a few things, but first let's test our phone lines and let's ask what you think. 949-8037, 949-6990, or 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. So not a question nor a discussion that was exclusive to this group, nor was it something that we discussed in any great detail over an extended period. But the question of legalizing the social acceptance of drugs, not just alcohol, not just tobacco, not just ganja or cannabis or marijuana or however you want to phrase it, but other drugs. Seeing that other jurisdictions, in particular some in Europe, legalizing certain drugs, using established medical methods to help those with addiction in order to combat their addictions, to ensure that they are healthy, that they're a resource. But in the Cayman context, there's much discussion still about either legalizing or decriminalizing. We get caught up in whether this word means that and what's the importance of doing it this way or the next. But the increasingly appearance that socially, in public settings, among many people, that is okay to possess and consume. I'll use the word, and if it's improper, you let me know. A spliff, a joint, a blunt, whatever it is. Now I'm learning some of these words increasingly, and to understand that its use isn't just the adult. It isn't just the adult in one of the professions, whether it's law or medicine or financial services or education or otherwise, but it's also the adult that's been freshly minted at 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old. And through the excellent work of the National Drug Council, we're seeing drug use, and I include alcohol in that, among many of our very, very young population, or students in our schools. Now, is it that from a society's perspective we see little or minimal harm in the use, some would say even abuse, of some of these drugs? Is it that we are not sufficiently concerned enough? We have said to ourselves, well, we did worse when we were that age, so look at us now. Well, maybe things are different now. Maybe we weren't as bad as we thought. Maybe we didn't do things in the way it was done. But to what extent the society is even willing to consider what is transpiring and the potential impact in 10, 20, 50 years. Let's take this call. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling. Happy Monday to you. How are you doing, sir?
Excellent. Good afternoon to you, man. Always a pleasure to hear you.
Thank you, man. Who you guess? It sounds like you're talking to Nostradamus. I don't know.
Reading from one of the quatrains?
Yep. But good advice on many topics. I wanted to just call in to commend the people, Mr. Miller, Miss Soto, and others, who have produced this excellent historical volume focusing on the Caymanian turtlers, seamen, sailors, boat captains, all of the above and much more. They had a great reception to launch it over the weekend at the Turtle Center, and I encourage every family to try to get a copy. I know they only have 1,000 initially copies, but I've read a couple of chapters and they were amazing, and they're written in the words and the dialect sort of those they interviewed years ago, the original seamen. It's not glossed over by professional people who clean up the edges. You see all the nautical terms and the words and the situations and the relations with the wife and the family and between the captain and the crew. Excellent. In fact, I would suggest that you could take one chapter a day, with some chapters are just a couple pages, and read them during your breaks, like now, between guests or between callers. It really is an amazing thing.
I agree with you, man. It shows us who our people are, what they've experienced, and sometimes our lack of appreciation. Maybe we've taken it for granted.
Right.
Life today for many of us is different. It's better. but do we appreciate and respect the sacrifice, the level of service and commitment that our parents?
It's not just about the past, because those virtues and ethics that kept them going, 10, 15 men on a schooner in the middle of the ocean. Many of them endured hurricanes on those sailing ships. You imagine that? A hurricane hitting you on a sailing boat in the middle of the water. But that, as an example, those things teach you how to work together, overcome differences, teamwork. All those things could be applied or should be applied today as well, no matter where you are. So there are many lessons. It's not just about, Mud's boat in the sound. It's about life, overcoming the hardships of life. And those are life lessons, literally, that can and should be taught today. And not just the actual events, which are great in themselves, but also the lessons and the essence of what happened, those things, the ingenuity of people living on an island. There's no resources at all, no shops, no nothing. And we look at a thatched stream and you say, oh, what can we make of this? And we look at a couple of limbs on the beach and say, you know what, I see some limbs bending over there. Maybe I can chop a few of those and just put them together and build a catboat. Who came up with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we have to love our culture because it's fading fast. We're already outnumbered, as you know. So we can't let other stronger cultures overcome the little essence of what we are and what we were renowned as.
It's interesting.
People.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time not just to listen but to weigh in, because it's interesting that you shared something that you were not in that discussion I was referencing, and here are these young people saying the same thing, right? And sharing that for some reason it would appear that any public expression of Caymanianness and Caymanianism, and as Mr. Loxwell was saying, BCI centric, so to speak. No, that wasn't the phrase they used, but that
Caymanese. Caymanese and Buckatos too.
Yeah, that any kind of time that we do that, for some reason in other countries that would be celebrated as national pride and something good, but for here we allow it to be termed in a negative way.
Pejorative, right? Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm not just talking about young professionals who, in their office environment, whether they're engaging with clients on island or they're traveling or they're on their phone, but by their peers saying, well, you can't be so Caymanian, you can't sound Caymanian, you can't. And I don't know how I would respond.
I agree, and I've seen people in public speaking about whatever. And if they have to say, well, that person is a Caymanian, they'll whisper the word Caymanian.
Yeah,
If it's a bad thing to say. I'm like, why are you whispering, he or she's a Caymanian? That's a proud thing, what they did and what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Being Caymanian is not a negative factor. I mean, but it goes to show that we're being outnumbered and outpowered. And the young people especially need a voice. Youth Flex is there.
Yes.
I was very happy to help create that during my time with the Youth Commission. But your show, for example, if you had every other Friday or something dedicated to youth, the young people need a voice. Really.
But here's the challenge, right? And I appreciate what you're sharing. For some reason, there are people from the young, and the young in particular are more apt to take it up. But our professionals, we either say we don't have time, we ensure that we schedule ourselves that we don't. Unlike the foreign national who may have come from a larger jurisdiction, who understand and respect the importance of it, they'll come on the program more quickly than our own Caymanians, right?
Right. Well, you have to encourage it. I mean, young people are suffering under the highest unemployment sector of the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the time when young men and young women are supposed to be building their futures, building their foundations, getting into, careers, not just jobs, but places that will lead them into the 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're unemployed, sitting under a tree in their teens and 20s, at 25, 35, who's going to take them on as a
Yeah.
an up-and-coming person.
Why do you think that is, man? Is that deliberate? Is that something that...
A lot of it, unfortunately, is deliberate. I won't go into my rationale for that thought, but a lot of it has to be deliberate because every country supposedly looks out for its own, especially the vulnerable, which are youth and the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not. We are not. Especially the youth. From the time they hit high school, this is a traditional thing too. And remember, traditionally, our young men and women became adults at 13, 14. And a lot of us still have that hold on where, okay, well, he's big enough, she's big enough, 14, 15, start talk like that, okay. Don't guide him, don't shepherd him, don't mentor him. He'll be okay. No. These days, they're surrounded by lots of issues and temptations, and they need it more than ever now.
Yeah, yeah.
And for every young person, there's 10 other foreign people who are, or maybe 100, who are lining up to take that opportunity that they may not even apply for.
Well, they may, not be...
Or even if they apply for, they may be rejected too.
Well, you know what? Maybe having you on, I know that we've extended invitation and your schedule don't always align, but having that evocative sort of informative educational approach to societal norms, the potential of social engineering that could be conscious and deliberate or just maybe transpiring and we're unaware. Maybe we can have you on and have someone to sit next to you and see where we can take it, no?
Yeah, well, two things. I'm calling you now, obviously, but I really am tired of hearing talk, and no solutions.
But that's what I'm saying, yeah.
So, yeah, if somebody or if you can drive something towards a solution, even if it's by advocating, young people advocating for whatever,
Yeah.
That I might consider it, but not just for talking. And the other aspect I would have to think about first is, I would have to go to the barber and make him give me a good cut before I come on radio. Shave up and things.
Yeah, man. I'm sure, like me, you got a face for radio, But we'll chat about it, man. And then when you come, you can bring your solutions.
Yeah, man. Encourage people to pick up that book and try to get one for radio. Radio Cayman should have one. But
Yeah.
Loxley is part of that whole thing.
Yep, definitely.
All right, sir. Have a good day.
You too, man. Thank you for it. And we'll quickly pause and join the other callers. Please stay on the line.
No, man. I'm tired of seeing a new charge on my phone bill every month.
You are always complaining about that bill. I think it's time you make that switch to Digicel.
I've been with my network for more than a decade. I don't know if I want to move over now.
Well, better later than never. When you switch to Digicel, you get better speeds, more data, and simply more value. Best of all, no dishonest practices. What they say is what you get. Make that switch today and get 50% off your first 2 months.
50% off my first 2 months? Mary, you're convincing me now. Okay, I'll visit a Digicel store near me.
Experience the bigger, better network. Switch your postpaid number to Digicel for 50% off your first 2 months or get a free 30-day Prime bundle for prepaid customers. Make the switch today.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old girl this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Your dream home starts with a vision, and often inspiration is at the heart of that vision. Brand Source Home Gallery's in-house designers are here to help bring your vision to life. Whether you're remodeling or building a new home, Brand Source Home Gallery is your one-stop solution. Explore their kitchen cabinets, sinks, faucets, bath fixtures, tubs, vanities, and more. Let Brand Source's designers help and inspire you with your next project. Call 623-5000 and schedule an appointment with a design expert at Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, serving Cayman for 50 years.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
All aboard the Pizza Boat! Cayman's newest pizzeria. Birthday parties, office luncheons, summer camps, game night. Whatever your occasion, bring the fun with Pizza Boat. A Cayman twist to pizza. Bringing fusion ingredients from all over the globe to give you locally inspired fresh pizzas all day, every day. What's more, now you can enjoy a boat-shaped pizza with toppings of your choice. It's Pizza Boat. Pizza Boat, now open in Queens Court on West Bay Road. Pick up or delivery 949-0000 or order online www.pizzaboat.ky. Pizza Boat. Experience the ultimate pizza voyage.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is Open Line as we invite you to be a part of the discussion. Let's go to the phones. Hey, welcome, good afternoon, thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling. How you doing today, bro?
Hey, I am excellent, bro. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, man. Thank God. Listened to your caller before. Not why I called. It's interesting what he's reading. I'm actually reading the Cayman Islands History, Politics, and Society.
Roy Borden's, huh?
Yeah, essays in honor of J. Roy Borden. I know how much of that you read. Some interesting, beautiful things in there.
Excellent.
The love letters to my people were powerful. almost want to read a short one, but
go right ahead, man.
well, I'll read this short one since you say that. It says, "A dream made pedestrian, February 24th, 2021. Love letters to my people. A few years ago, a beloved neighbor, friend, and Cayman legend David Jonathan Ebanks Jr. of blessed memory took to Facebook and wrote his morning post of the day. It was simple and likely landed on many deaf minds, but my mother picked it up, thought it over, and called me. He posted how proud he was of his children heading off to work in the morning as he sat on the front porch in his favorite chair. My mother called me to tell me how proud she was of me, because she recognized in Jonathan's post the realization of the Caymanian dream." I was like, wow. Wow.
This is it, man.
And if you knew Jonathan, that was just simple but profound.
You know, we have much, in our people that, unfortunately, I don't think that we respect and recognize, right? I don't want to put you off, but I'm glad that you read that, and I really appreciate you calling. So you share what you want. Maybe I'll be inclined to ask and answer.
Well, yeah, I'm on my little quest that I started with you last week. And I see it now as a quest. Because everywhere I turn, I'm finding it. It's this notion of life made a little simpler in our society. And I suppose I'm sharing it with you and this time of day with the hope that that it doesn't fall on a deaf ear, and that there's indeed people who are hearing and those who can help make the difference. But there's increasingly, in my view, a lot of little things that are very frustrating, and I think impacts on things like quality of life. And I shared with you last week my thoughts about, all of the things that we're doing on the road and that sort of thing that I think impact us. There are a whole heap more, to use our vernacular, that I'd like to bring to the fore. And these ones are more institutional, but they all go to impacting us. I think what I'm discovering anyway in this little quest is, the fact that we live in the Cayman Islands, major financial services center, is a great thing, but it impacts the lives of our local people in tremendous amount of ways that most people in most places and in much bigger cities would not even have to encounter. So I walked into the bank the other day, one of them, I can call it because they have the sign up, Butterfield Bank. And they have this sign up that says, as of the 1st of August, they're no longer doing check encashment. So they're not changing checks anymore. And I suppose they want you to open an account. So, I'm going to ask the question, do you know why they're doing that?
What's interesting, no, I don't, but what's interesting is that globally, at least in the global north, the move to a digital society, a cashless society, is being realized, and it would appear in unison. There seems to be a very concerted, coordinated effort across many jurisdictions, and it's impacting banking, consumer finance, the ability to transact.
Yeah, I kind of entertain that one. I don't know if that's so much the case for our bank. It is this whole thrust, I think, behind the whole know your customer thing, and the considerations, limitations, whatever you want to call it, that our local banks face. And I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt without them actually explaining it. Never mind that I think it's about, obviously, bottom line. But it impacts the lives of many people. Seniors, like your caller before just spoke about. But even businesses. I can think of a small business, for example, that don't care to have a lot of money on hand, and they write checks as a refund for people. And how that will impact them now in terms of getting money to people. Will that now mean they have to now carry cash on hand, which is not, what most businesses want to be doing nowadays, sadly. And it's it is simple, but it's just unreal. I don't understand. There are so many ways. You know what? Before I go to the solutions, let me think of another one. I also had to go into, I don't know when is the last time you went into one of the money transfer companies, and in order to send a $50 to someone, I had to bring in a job letter, my passport, what else? My utility bill to show proof of address. And I started to think about the thousands of expatriates in this country who are doing that. So before I handed it over, I thought of data protection, and I said, well, where's this information being stored, and who has access to all this information? So from whoever it is in the data protection office, they need to be looking at these money transfer companies and asking them about the data that they're requiring from people. But I'd be thinking to myself, but why is that necessary? I was in the U.S. once where I received money and once where I sent money. The one where I received money, I had lost money, and I was in the States for an extended amount of time. And I got some money sent to me. I didn't need a scrap ID other than nothing more than just a simple ID to say who I was. And I don't understand why we need to have all that requirement here. You need to get a job letter. Yes, I know again, it's my view. It's to do with the whole know your customer. It's to know where the money's coming from, and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's think about some of these online services. Do you know in Cayman, you can't receive PayPal, for example. People send money to people all the time and receive money all over the world, and we can't receive it here because no bank won't have any pay. You can't take money out of your PayPal account. Even businesses are using PayPal nowadays. Why can't our people take advantage of just simple things like that? Again, it's to to do with trying to close these loopholes behind supporting the financial services sector and all the limitations surrounding that, in my view. I don't understand why we cannot, in the midst of trying to provide enabling legislation that supports our financial services center, also carve out very real considerations for the local customer. We know who we are, and our local institutions would know who we are, because to even open an account would need to have all those due diligence requirements. So why are you having all these then vendors having to impose all these things on a daily basis? Again, it's to do with trying to reduce the frustrations in our local community. You can put things like you can't receive no more than $400 a week or a month. I mean, if you're talking about people who are money laundering and stuff, they're not using PayPal. Are you kidding me? Go after them. You know, put stipulations, $400 a week you can't receive, or you can't send no more than $500, which they already do. So then why you need to have all this so I can bring it in? I mean, I'm a citizen of this country. Isn't my ID enough? I just need to confirm that I am John Doe sending this money to Susan Harris in North Carolina, and you need to have where that money is coming from in order for me to do that as well.
It's interesting. I mean, so you shared you maybe think it's the KYC, but is it?
Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, as you were talking, I was reflecting on a number of things I've been reading over the years, and seeing justifications from sort of banking authorities as well as the banking cartels, and you know, is it France now and some parts of Europe that even a cash payment of $1,000 or more is now prohibited? So if you have, for instance, you know, your trades come over because you're doing some renovations and you want to pay them in cash, you may be prohibited, right?
So you're kind of circling, if you will, the focus about cash and the transaction of cashless society. I'm kind of going a little broader, but I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
You know, and I'm seeing the incremental. I'm thinking of the analysis of what we hear. You've got a reportedly, if you put frog in water and just slowly turn it up with a stick and boil it to death, if you throw it into a pot, it may jump out, right?
Yeah.
And if you look again in the Cayman context, we are going to travel, we're going to use our credit card for security, for protection, for fraud prevention and mitigation. We advise our financial institution that we're traveling, where we're traveling to, how long, and the like. If not, we may find our transactions being declined until we're advised in the bank, right?
Yeah.
But in the Cayman context, not only is there a limit on your cash withdrawal at your ATM from the account, with which you must have money in order to take out the cash, right? If you go into a local business with your card and you decide to make a transaction over a prescribed sum, that too can be declined, right?
Right.
So in our acceptance of these things, are we willing to appreciate that over time things have happened where we become just conditioned, just accepting of it?
I see those things, and I'm again, I hear you. And I see a lot of those things that you reference to do with perhaps security, also for the customer, which for me isn't so crazy, because I've had my account has been impacted in the local banks once, and it was a huge thing where it was something like 10 or so it was something like a few hundred, I think she told me, that were impacted, where credit cards and stuff were appearing in other places, and they had a data breach. And so mine was one of them, and the bank had to refund the money in the whole nine, because I was not in New York, like they said, where I had spent it. And so I see a lot of those things to do with protection, although I hear you in terms of the small things maybe just gradually adding up. I suppose my lens is a little different, and I don't want to perhaps muddy that what I believe are real on-the-ground frustrations in our country just because we live in the Cayman Islands. And I say that also, for example, if you default on your house mortgage right now, you may just end up in what's that worldwide online thing? Forgot what they call it, where government, the legal department was challenging them to having access to the database because they were simply, just because we reside in the Cayman Islands, we're listing you worldwide if you had a default. For example, when millions, if not billions of people have defaulted all over the world, and they don't end up on the World Wide Web saying that they had a default in loan. It's simply because we live here. And some people may not realize that. And it's quite sad because all the case load is loaded online, and so these people just pay to get that, and they have access, and they list you just because you're now in Cayman. And that's disturbing to me for many reasons, you know. And it's the little things. It's all these little things I think that impact quality of life and are just unnecessary frustrations, or more frustrations than I believe that we need. And it's also because either one, our leaders are not utilizing any of this sort of services. Maybe they're just using the cards for everything, or better yet, their secretary is paying for everything, using their cards or whatever. They don't get to experience it and feel it and know it. But you know, it's very frustrating. I happened to say to one of the ladies who happened to be Jamaican that was in the line that I was at, and I said, you know, does this frustrate you to death? She said, oh my God, it was so difficult for me to get my proof of address because I don't have a local address listed. It's the landlord that has it. And I just, you know, you may think, well, that's not Caymanian having to deal with it, but we do.
But it's a reflection.
Sorry?
It's a reflection on what's happening in the community, right?
Right. It's the little things and our lending institutions and the whole dynamics is what I'm saying. Being a financial services industry has impacted just our normal quality day of life. Gone are the days where you just walked in, and I think of, you know, going to the bank, Old Royal Bank with my grandparents, and just the simplicity of being able to get the loan with them. We're past that, and I understand that, and I'm not living there. But we can do much more if we're that smart to be a major financial services center by providing enabling legislation that supports this jurisdiction and make it so. Then there's absolutely no reason, in my view, if that same brain energy can't be put into, okay, come on, guys, we need to be able to carve out some space there. You know, we need to put some stipulations where it can't go crazy, because that's what it's doing. It's going crazy for local people being able to just operate, to just be able to live and move and have their being. It's just constant frustration and a constant paper trail to death.
Yeah. But as you're on your quest, are you making a list of these things?
I am.
Okay.
Yes, brother, I am. So that today was the road last week, is the banks this week, or the lending institutions, financial institutions, the intermediaries, all the little funny things that we talk about. Thanks, Sterling.
No, listen, thank you. And you know, as many of us joke, you know, when we become elected, we'll have a ministry of little things, you know.
Yeah.
So
Ministry of Cayman. Yeah, that was, because everything else seems to be pointed to helping others, assisting others, enabling others. Ministry of Cayman. I going back to reading essays to the history of to the honor of J.A. Roy Barton.
Yeah, man.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. Enjoy your read.
Thank you, man.
All right. This is how we chat. Thank that listener for sharing and for calling. Mr. Call, you want us to take that break? All right, let's do that. Join us after.
Are you an entrepreneur with a groundbreaking idea? It's time to launch your startup and access the ultimate springboard to success. Introducing Launch Labs Incubator by Enterprise Cayman. Ignite your potential and get pitch ready for angel investment. Tap into the Cayman Enterprise City Network and vibrant community of like-minded innovators. During this 12-week program, access expert advisors in a collaborative co-work environment. No cost to participate thanks to CEC. All startups encouraged to apply. Visit enterprisecayman.KY for details and don't miss the August 1st deadline.
Homeowners, protecting your family and property is crucial during the season, and you should always assess insurance needs long before a storm makes landfall. Most insurers won't issue new policies or increases when a storm is imminent. Cayman Insurance Center's team of professionals can help owners like you find the most comprehensive coverage and competitive rates. Call the insurance professionals at Cayman Insurance Center 949-4657 or email info@cic.com.ky. Don't take chances with your family's future or your valuable assets. Call Cayman Insurance Center's insurance professionals today at 949-4657.
There you go, sir. Thanks for choosing JN Money Transfer.
Boy, thanks to JN Money Transfer, I can stay right here in Cayman and pay mama bills back home in Jamaica. Her water, light, phone and other bills never late. Every month I pay everything in one place.
Make payments to over 30 companies in Jamaica through JN Money Transfer. Fast, affordable, convenient. Call 1-800-744-1163 for details.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Dwayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Hey, is your phone slow, overheating, and dropping important calls? Don't fret. This summer, it's time to flip out with Digicel. Introducing the all-new Samsung Flip 4 with its sleek design and cutting-edge features. You'll flip into the summer in style and confidence. This summer, you can grab the all-new Samsung Flip 4, all just for $145. Flip into the summer with Digicel. Visit a Digicel store near you and grab the all-new Samsung Flip 4 and the amazing 7-day Prime Ultra plan today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is open line as we go straight to the phones. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling. Hey, good afternoon. Afternoon, how are you?
Hello?
Hey, good afternoon, how are you?
This is Sterling.
Yes, sir, how are you?
Rough and regular like sandpaper.
Well, is it a for the grip or less? I mean, you never know,
Fine, but I was listening to the same story that I've been beating old horse with on your show, and nobody answering me concerning this monogram situation. And I do not know if the monetary authority, which should be in charge of that as well, on the island, I could be wrong now, because now remember now this is an uneducated person you're talking to. But I am saying, Mr. Sterling, and listen to me quite clearly.
Yes, sir.
Define it any better, because even the Bible tell you can learn from a fool, huh?
Those who are unwilling to listen and heed counsel.
Sterling, that people can be endangered with this information now, with the monogram. Let me show you. All you need to do, if I come into you to send money, Mr. Sterling, this is how I think. My name and my address here in Cayman, and I'm sending it overseas, say to my sister or the wife or just anybody. That person, when they go to collect the money, they have to show their ID to collect that money from the bank or wherever they're collecting it from overseas. That shouldn't have nothing to do with us here that is sending it from Cayman. Because real quickly, at MoneyGram, they can target you and say, well, Mr. Sterling, every month he goes at such and such a time, and even while before you leave in your house, they can target you, rob you, or even kill you.
And everything is quiet with this MoneyGram thing. I do not know why they have to give so much information. They want to know the age of the person. They want to know direct your address so the thief can go direct to your house and your house number. Come on now, Mr. Sterling. What? I'll leave it up to you to answer that, or to the public to figure that out. Why all of this information? Why? Who's the information for? What is doing it for? That I would like the educated ones to call in now and explain that to me. That is not uneducated, because people can target you and they can rob you and kill you because they know exactly where you live. So you have a good evening, Mr. Sterling. I want to hear somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And I think as both callers and last in particular reference the idea of data protection and understanding that we've not only enacted laws here, but they are globally. The question is, is the consumer unwilling to question? Is the consumer sufficiently informed to not only refuse and decline, but when the consumer does, is there recourse? Is it a case where if you don't accept their terms and conditions, you can't use this platform, for example? Well, let's pause and take a break. When we come back from the headline news, maybe someone will call and share and give us a perspective. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Follow Radio K-Man on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio K-Man.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio K-Man's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Morant, a law firm-led professional services business, announces the appointment of 4 new partners in its Cayman Islands office, all of them internal promotions. Andrew Grant, Chris Nixon, Finn Howie, and Rhiannon Williams have all been promoted to partner. In international headlines, crews in suburban Philadelphia today intensified the search for a missing 9-month-old boy and his 2-year-old sister, who were swept away after weekend rain swelled the banks of a creek while they were driving to a barbecue with their family. Upper Makefield Township Fire Chief Tim Brewer said today it would be a massive undertaking and that 100 search crew and numerous drones would be looking for the siblings along the creek that drains into the Delaware River in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. The children are members of a Charleston, South Carolina family that was visiting relatives and friends when they got caught in a flash flood on Saturday. The sticker price on Ford's F-150 Lightning electric pickup is being lowered by thousands of dollars due to increased plant capacity, falling costs for battery raw materials, and internal efforts to scale production by the Detroit automaker. Ford Motor Company said today final upgrades at its Michigan center would lead to greater availability of a built-to-order truck as early as October at a manufacturer's suggested retail price closer to initial Lightning pricing. The upgraded MSRP for the Pro model, that's its lowest price electric pickup, will be $49,995 US, down from $59,974. The Lariat 510A's MSRP will decline to $69,995 from $76,974. Those are your headlines. I'm April Cummings.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio K-Man's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
You know you've dreamed of that Mercedes, the smooth leather, the style, luxury that feels so good. Ooh la la. With the prestigious 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLA 200 up for grabs in this year's Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser. This is your chance to make that dream come true. Tickets are $25 for 1, 3 for $65, or 5 for $100. Benzorama fundraiser tickets are available with Lions Club members and various sales outlets. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Benzorama fundraiser supports numerous community initiatives, include site screening, Christmas delivery, restoration, and social services.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to our listeners. It is Monday, some open line as we take you into the remaining 25 minutes of thereabouts of today's show. the last two callers and the one prior in particular sharing about maybe the things that impact the quality of life, the little frustration, the little things. One quick comment during the break from a listener who said, quite simply, in the Cayman context, not only is much taken for granted, but there is seemingly an unwillingness publicly for many to express some of their views that they may share. And as an example, I referenced this the other day, and I was sort of, in my view, as I call it, shared just during the break. Why didn't you expound that further? I thought, well, it was just a comment that was shared. Maybe you'll pick it up. It's the colors of buildings. It's the, way certain spaces are painted, from gates, to entrances to the like. And the caller shared that in the past they saw these things, but didn't really understand, why there was a bit of a frustration. Not just the bright, shades, as in hues and the like, but only recognizing that ours were more muted, more pastel. Well, let's take this call. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Dwayne.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Not going to be able, just fine, thank you. I can't complain. An old man. I not going to try to answer that question for my friend George there, and we're uneducated, half idiots. I am amongst that number. I've got to just ask people to remember one thing. We're a very unique country. At this time, we have the most educated Caymanians ever in history. We have a lot of people with university degrees. I'm talking about Caymanians.
Mm-hmm.
With university degrees, many are very well educated. And we see the move towards, as much as people criticize the education system, I have no criticism for it. There's lots of things to be done. I don't know why we don't have inspectors of the school inspection system who are Caymanians. It's a difference in having... We had that before. Mr. Hunter used to be chief inspector many years ago and so forth. I Clifton Hunter. I don't know why we changed from these situations and what we thought was more modern. And remember something, that those children who went to Miss Genevieve School, I was schooled in Jamaica, but I have good friends who went there. My era, talking in the 70s now, who said Miss Genevieve would always say a consultant is the guy from over yonder, when they asked who a consultant was. And that remains to this day. Simply the guy from over yonder, and we simply use these people, pay them a lot of money. Whenever we have a little problem that our elected representatives, even the solver, getting together. And we have very smart people in the government civil service in every aspect of it. I don't know why we go for these consultants and we have these commissions and all sorts of things. We got to talk before we act on anything. What I wanted to really say was this. It's very good that they're doing a book on the turtling, on the schooners, on the yawls, and catches, boats that were built, and on what our forefathers did, because that was our life. Those of us who can remember it, it was their life. And that turtling gave us our seafaring abilities. No one can deny that, which made us famous throughout the world. We were not famous for anything else. We're famous now for the money business because we're handling money for big people from all over. But that's not a Caymanian thing. Let's not get fooled by that. That's why I started the conversation talking about our people so educated now and so naive. We sold land to people, very valuable land, and now that land is going to be utilized by those people. They'll hire lawyers to make them be able to use it how they want to use it. That's what it's all about. That's why they spend that money on it. With the turtle thing, am I still being... Yes.
Yes, sir.
My father, the late Captain Zarvidal Hurlston, shipped over 20,000 turtles to England that he had butchered from 1938 to 1950. I don't know if there's any mention of that in that book. That is a significant part of the turtling business because it involved nearly every turtle captain bringing those turtles to him in the huge crawls he kept under the big, big wharfs or piers there in Jamaica, where he went to from 1938, shipped that till 1950. Over 20,000 turtles. He had butchered and built the boxes that he shipped them in himself on the banana ships because they were refrigerated ships. And that was a big business. And many Caymanians he took with him. Many he'd periodically go over to, especially into the Brack. Many of the Scots, I can remember them to this day, generations ago. And it was a big, big business. And the fishing business. And he uses all the 47 foots on the south. The last big boat he built for himself. He built several big ones here. They should be well documented. In Melpomene, 1926, so the 56-foot yawl, and she was lost in the 32 hurricane with his good friend Captain James Ryan and 6 men on board. He had just sold her to him not too long before that, and then he launched the Meltonian, another 53, on South Sound Beach. I have a beautiful photograph of that. Also, with her bunting on her masts up on everything, being launched, registered on July the 20th, 1932, and she was used a lot to help supply Cayman Brack. My father did runs for the folks there after the 32 hurricane. She was a lifesaver to them. You can check this out. No mention of all that. All that. My father was building boats there. There were several of the largest vessels built in Jamaica for many years. Wholly built here, by a Caymanian, my father. Launched 1954, the Marsitania. It was almost 70 feet. He built her off for the Goldfield model that he had taken with him because my father's one of the 4 carpenters on the Goldfield. You can check out the register and you will see all these things are not noted. I've asked them many times. I've told them they can call me. I can give them a wealth of information on all this, on the many Caymanians who are working in the turtling business in my father and in the fishing business, on the boat building business there. And nobody has responded. And you all have my number there at Radio Cayman. I am very, very disappointed in all this. And all this, I commend Mr. Jerry Smith and all the rest who are trying to revive and shake up our memories on these things. It's so very important. But I'm very sorry that my father's memory in his whole contribution has been forgotten and left out. And there are other the Caymanians also that I don't hear any mention of. Captain Tideman Dixon, Captain Bonnie Dixon, and all those there. And I can supply them with a wealth of information if they so choose to call me. I want to thank you very much for listening to me, but I think it's time for us to wake up and understand we have left out an important part of our history, and there are other things we are leaving out also. And it's so very important at this time because we're losing our heritage and our culture. Thank you so much, sir, for listening to me.
And thank you for sharing. Have a good afternoon, sir. And as that caller was, sharing there, perhaps others too, but we'll comment further. Let's take this call. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon.
Me again, Sterling.
Welcome back, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, I was that last caller kind of triggered my mind. He's so very right in terms of the whole turtling industry. My father was an engineer down at the old turtle farm, and I kind of think about the old turtle farm, growing up in Northwest Point and the history surrounding that, and the role that it played, certainly in the life of providing not just an attraction, but also a source of food, which continues today. That was also shocking to hear that 20,000 turtles went to the UK. They actually ate turtle over there. I didn't realize. So,
yeah, it's interesting,
that was very interesting.
Turtle soup, and it was a delicacy, and it was only for those more affluently able to afford it,
Interesting. I called back, though, because I know previously you were speaking with CEC, Cayman Enterprise City,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get to listen to all of it, but, that always perks my ears, I suppose, and don't like to tap my own back, but I'm proud that I was the first secretariat for the Cayman Enterprise City and was intimately involved with creating the regulations and the legislation in terms of to support that industry as a startup under the former Cayman Islands Investment Bureau, now Cayman Islands Department of Commerce, under the leadership of Dr. Bazdeo.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, Jonathan Pierce was our director.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very, very proud of that, getting the systems in place. But I did have one question that I've been meaning to ask. I know that part of the government's agreement with the whole Enterprise City at the time was to have the building of a special or purpose-built sort of buildings for CEC, and I've never really heard anything more about that over the years. Did they speak to that? I know the flip side of having a purpose-built facility is the loss of rent for a lot of the commercial establishments that all of these various businesses are in.
Well, they have over the years. We do have another call, and we'll get to that, but I want to, respect your time. But what's interesting is that they have, over the last decade, 12 years or so, been consistently working on it. And this is just my perspective, right? I wonder to what extent had that entity been funded by external sources or being driven by others than Caymanians, would they have sort of getting more attention, support, and celebration than it is?
Yeah, well, perhaps, most definitely. But you remember now the whole concept of an economic zone, and certainly in the Cayman context, because I know the legislation that was written around it, like I said, is obviously one of the restrictions that it has is that the businesses in the zone cannot do business with the businesses locally. Now, the innovations that come out of a CEC business can be taken advantage of by the local business, and part of that concern, obviously, like all economic zones, is that you don't impact local businesses. Although the thrust for the special economic zone, as I recall, and I don't know if that shifted, was to do with capitalizing on the whole thrust of innovation and technology, which is perhaps why that is the big draw for many of the firms that are there now, is because that was our focus. It was never about creating, a fruit of the loom special economic where you actually made product on the island, although I know products can be made, but it's more technologically focused, as I understood it. But that's all. I was just wondering about that purpose-building, man, and if you knew about it. Thanks, bro.
Thank you too. And let's appreciate it again, man. Let's take this call. Hey, welcome. Thanks for sharing with us. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me well? I'm outdoors in the breeze.
Well, hopefully it's not a hot air. You feeling well?
Well, you can't avoid hot air much these days. if you get any kind of air, it could be hot.
Yeah. There's a lot of wind.
Oh, okay. Well, I can. My comment really was just very sort of maybe a little bit of a joke. So I heard Anna talking about the cashless society and moving toward a cashless society, and I'm reminded of Ansuke talking about the same thing. Somebody was saying to her, say, Ansuke, the world is moving toward a cashless society. Ansuke said, what do you mean, cashless society? Moving toward a cashless society? Me? I arrived at cashless society a long time ago.
Yeah, she's having it.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, we are many of us are in that cashless position, or definitely like it. But Yes. Now, on a serious note, yeah, the world is moving toward a cashless society. Everything must become digital, so everything can be controlled, of course. If I'm able to just walk into a shop, let's say, and buy things with cash, then I'm kind of out of control here, right? The computers that track all of these transactions can't really track that transaction. And the day is coming, as we all know, or as we should know if we read the New Testament, the day is coming when no man will be able to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. You won't be able to buy or sell because every transaction can be tracked today, billions of them, all within a second or so. And at that time, all of them will be tracked. And they will be tracked under the guise of preventing fraud. They will be tracked under the guise of preventing terrorism and the likes of that. But it's not, but that, of course, that's not the purpose. That's just the excuse.
Mm-hmm.
The real purpose there is to make sure that you cannot survive outside of the system. Computers are quite capable of doing that right now and are doing it too. But that day will come when either you worship the beast and his image, or you can't do another transaction. The only safe place is in Jesus. Because he is the answer and he is coming.
You know,
I've had a rapture experience, by the way, and I think I sent that to you, Dwayne. Maybe one day you'll play some or all of it. But I'm pretty sure I sent it to this WhatsApp before. And I say we got to not particularly focus or not totally focus on this world, but on the next one, because that's fast arriving.
You are right, man. And I guess increasingly we need to pay attention, and be part.
Exactly.
Yep.
But Jesus says that he says what is sown is the word, and the devil comes immediately to steal the word through the cares of this life and the deceitfulness of riches. So we get so inundated and burdened down with the cares of this life and the deceitfulness of riches, which can't save anybody, right? That we forget about the word, which would set us free, liberate us, and help us get from here to where we really want to go, because we're going anyhow. And this world is short-lived in any case. So many things are going on around us. I have a word that I give people every day, and sometimes many people every day, including today, and that is this: read the New Testament and believe it, and it will transform your life. Read the New Testament and believe it, and it will transform your life. We are moving toward a cashless society, but we're fast moving toward the day, the minute, when we are taken out of this world. Every believer will be taken away out of this world. And there's the glorious hope. So let's put our hope in Jesus and do our best while we're in this world, of course. Everything that we can do. Every talent that he's given us, let us employ it.
Mm-hmm.
But these are interesting and serious times.
Without question.
Very serious.
Without question.
Go ahead.
No, without question. Yeah.
So we can get so sideswiped and sidelined in our thinking sometimes that we put all the emphasis or too much emphasis on this world and we forget our real message. Every Christian believer has a real message, of hope for people, of hope, because this world is not our home.
Mm-hmm.
This world is not the believer's home. We are just passing through, as the song says. This is our chance. This is our rejoicing point. Sure, we will have tribulation, Jesus says, but be of good cheer. He says, I have overcome the world. I've deprived it of power to harm you, the Amplified New Testament says. I've conquered it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Man, what a hope.
Indeed.
What a rejoicing point.
Indeed. And I appreciate you sharing, and as I listen to you, I'm mindful of, what much the scriptures talks about, including, be wary of false prophets, and, recognizing, as you shared, the signs that are before us. So respectfully, let us rejoin you another time. Let's take this final quick break and then wrap it when we come back. Stay tuned.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
As a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Yo, big up Massive. Summer is here and Digicel got the vibes flowing straight to Jamaica. That's right, me people. Digicel has a sizzling offer for you. Top up for your loved ones in a Jamaica and you get a chance to win the ultimate trip to the land of sun, sea and good vibes. To enter for the free trip to Jamaica, just send top up to your loved ones back home with Digicel and you automatically qualify. Remember, the more top up you send, the higher the chance you win. So make sure you don't miss out on the fun. Me people, get the summer vibes flowing with a top up for your loved ones with Digicel and get ready for a trip of a lifetime.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And we have time for one final call. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
How
are you?
Not bad.
All right, man. Good to hear from you always.
When the Cayman Islands government instituted the digital ID, they put a major weapon in the hands of the world to control us in every way that you could possibly imagine. The policies of the Cayman Islands government is to deal with climate. And if you don't understand that climate can be used as a weapon, you soon will understand how it can be used or misused, as I think about it. The carbon is not a pollutant. Do you agree or disagree?
That carbon is not a pollutant?
It is not a pollutant.
If you listen to world media, they talk about carbon emissions, so one would probably conclude that it is, right?
Right. That's what their argument is. But that is just, the reason they're doing that is because they are seeking a justification in which they can regulate it. But if you think about what carbon is, it's everything. So they're looking to control and tax everything. If you ate anything that was grown out of the ground today, or was raised as an animal today, you ate carbon. In primary school, 3rd grade, they tell you how plants grow, okay? And they grow by combining carbon and water to make sugar. Yes, carbon is sugar, okay? That's how plants live. That's how they grow. And what the government is wanting to do is to have an ID that they could justify what you can and cannot buy. Right now, a certain company is testing whether when you use a certain card, if the estimated carbon footprint associated with that purchase would take you over the amount that they think you should spend a year, they tell you no. Okay? On average, it is said that the carbon footprint of each person is 16 tons. Their goal is to bring it from 16 tons to 2 tons per year. In order to do that, let me put that in simple terms for the Caymanians who like to travel. If you go along with what is being proposed, you would only be allowed to take 1 plane ride every 3 years. You will be limited in how much clothes you can purchase each year, what type of transportation you're allowed to have, what type of foods you're allowed to have. Their idea, what they want to do is to reduce the amount of beef, meat, whether it's fish or chicken or whatever, beef, whatever. They want to reduce that significantly. Preferably, they want to get you off of it entirely. If they can't get you off of it entirely, they would want you to eat insects. That wasn't a misstatement. Insects, yes, as your protein source. That's where they want to take the world. And the life that you think you're going to have is going to be so different from what you perceive, what they tell you, that you will be shocked to see the difference and how fast it will happen. Because it's really about control. It has nothing to do with the environment. It's about taxation. It doesn't have anything to do with the environment. The environment is the excuse they will use to control every single facet of your life. And if you don't believe that central banks are moving towards digital currency, then just search Fed now and see when the Fed is going to implement a digital form of payment in their system. That will eventually lead to a very broad new system in which everything is controlled centrally. So the way the model works right now, if you go to a store, you're paying with a debit card. The card company that has a contractual relationship with that bank will process that payment on behalf of the bank. The bank sees that you did this transaction. That model would go away. Instead, the request for authorization for the payment will go to the central bank. The central bank will decide, based upon all of the new ESG requirements that will be laid on top of that financial system, and determine whether the transaction should be permitted or not. And the Caymanians are going to be asking themselves, well, how is it that they could tell me how I can and can't spend my money? But first of all, it's not your money. It's theirs. Okay? You're just allowed to use it. That's why counterfeiting things is unlawful. You can't go to prison for counterfeiting something that belongs to you. The reason you go to prison is because it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the state. Right? And that's going to come sharply into focus when this system comes in. Oh, and by the way, if you think crime is high now, wait until everything is digital. Cayman is going to come face to face with what it means to have your identity stolen. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're going. And we're going there fast, thanks to the Cayman Islands government.
If that's, potential of what we're facing, is there anything we can do about it to counter that, to mitigate this impact?
First of all, you have to get rid of people who are putting you in that position to stand any chance whatsoever. Because if your MPs have bought it hook, line, and sinker, okay, and selling it boat, trailer, and anchor, you have no chance whatsoever. So you need people who understand and are paying attention and not allow themselves to be dragged into that system. Right now, Cayman has a degree of insulation from digital impersonation because things is more manual. So in order to take control of someone's identity requires a personal interaction. When you take that layer away, everything can be done remotely, you're going to begin to understand what I'm talking about.
Well, sometimes people can only see something when they look back. They lack the vision to look forward and consider what is. Always appreciate it, man. Any other thoughts you want to share with us?
Not for today. I mean, there's plenty of things I could say on it. But that's probably describing me as wearing a tin hat at the moment. So I'll leave it there so they could soak that up some more.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good afternoon, man.
You too.
And we invite you to be a part of our discussions. Come tomorrow, right after the midday news. And for the rest of the day, maybe look and ask questions, seek and find solutions, and act in a way that is not only positive and productive, but is intended to bring, much needed relief to people's lives. It's not so much what we take as, what we give that can make the difference between how a person lives, laughs, and loves. Until tomorrow, my friends, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network.